All right, good afternoon, everyone. So everyone is in the VPAE program, I take it?
No, not all of them,
Okay,
but most of them.
and a mix of Florida State and FAMU?
Yeah,
Okay. So I'm a proud graduate of Florida State, 2005. Me and my family we follow college football closely every year, but we followed it especially closer this year. So there's always an answer. But with that, this week I know there's career fairs going on. We have the STEM fair here, we have the FAMU career fair, and then Florida State has their career fair as well. So we're gonna go through some tips and skills for attendance at the career fair and any other additional conferences you may go to for student organizations. Overall highlight for resumes and then some interview tips. So feel free to jump in if you have any questions. And I think we have some Boeing interns as well, who are also gonna provide their feedback. So here's our agenda. I'll tell you a little bit about me, the upcoming events I just mentioned, resume tips, and then the interview skills and tips. So I've been with Boeing for almost 19 years. Once you graduate and get through and start your career, it goes by very fast. This building was not built when I was here, but I remember sitting at the E-School, spending long hours and nights there with other colleagues at the time, and we've all since moved on and are working professionally. So I've been an engineering manager with Boeing for about a year now. I have about 21 employees, so my discussion is going to be based on my feedback as a hiring manager. I've sat in multiple interviews for myself as undergrad. I remember being in your shoes, going to career fairs, trying to get jobs, interviewing, not getting positions and getting positions. I've gone to technical organizations and I've interviewed. I was actually hired on at a NSBE conference in 2005. And I have gone back to NSBE and recruited and been across the table from you interviewing as well. And then, of course, my interviews with Boeing to get my current position and the promotion that I have. So I mentioned the interview panels I've sat on. I've sat on a couple here at FAMU-FSU College of Engineering, over at FAMU, again, the technical organizations, and then at different hiring events we've had at the company. So the upcoming events. So, we've got the STEM fair. I know I'm not the only company here. There's multiple are doing info sessions, whether it's here at the E-School, the campuses. We've got the FAMU Career Fair, their networking mixer tomorrow evening, I think over at the President's House. And then I mentioned some other upcoming events for student organizations such as Black Engineer of the Year and NSBE as well. So a couple of things to remember as you're at these events. The networking mixer can be pretty informal, info sessions can be as well. And usually afterward, there's a line of people to talk to, whatever recruiters or employees are there. So be patient. If it's a company you're really interested in and you really want to talk to the recruiter, wait, be patient, maybe come back if there's a line or go to the other companies you're interested in. Be prepared. You don't always walk around with your resume on you, but if you know you're going to be at the career fair, you need to have your resume. LinkedIn accounts, I know that's a big thing. Have your QR code ready to scan or be ready to scan the recruiter's QR codes. Ask questions. I see these info sessions and when we're at career fairs as an informal interview, I get to know the student gets to know the company. That's a good time to ask questions that you might not have a chance to in an interview. What is the culture of the company like? Why do you like working at the company? How long have you been at the company? And then a lot of companies will tell you, go to our website, create an online profile. Do that. That's how you get the communication about the upcoming events. To even apply for a position, you have to have an online profile. So preparation. So before the conferences or career fairs, search and learn what companies are going to be there. Come up, with 3 to 5 or maybe 7 companies you want to focus on. I know the STEM fair is strictly just for engineering majors, and that's great because you're going to want to pretty much go to every company there. The FAMU and FSU career fair might be more business centric or hospitality or communications. There won't be as many technical companies there, but even when you're at the E-School, I think tomorrow, Last time I was here, it was all 3 floors, jam-packed with companies. You might not get to everyone, but who are the top 5 to 7 that you really want to talk to? Get feedback on your resume. I know both schools have career centers. Utilize all the resources that you're paying for. Go to the career center and have them look at your resume. Do mock interviews. I think some even provide a business attire. The last bullet is dress for success. But definitely get feedback on your resume. Ask your peers. One of my friends at school provided the best feedback on my resume, and it got me, I used it probably for the first 10 years of my career. So just look at each other's resumes. Practice doing interviews. I know a lot of people say, you know, line up your stuffed animals or friends or talk in the mirror, just to get comfortable asking questions. We find a lot of times people are nervous, and that's okay, but the more you talk and go through it, the more comfortable you'll be. Ask your teachers or other student organizations. So again, plan your agenda, look and know what companies are gonna be there. You know, I know at the engineering school, they had a QR code, you got to see all the list of the companies, where they're located. Plan your day, get to the companies you're really interested in first, and then maybe some that are lower on your list later, just in case you don't get time to go to them. And then again, if there's doing any workshops or info sessions or networking events, definitely go to those, get your face seen and your name to the recruiters that are on campus. And then again, dress for success. You know, I wouldn't suggest wearing 6-inch heels going up and down the stairs or walking around campus. Maybe a smaller heel, definitely no sneakers, you know, you want to look professional. So during the career fair, again, be prepared, have your resume on you. I remember it was a big thing to get the nice weighted paper. We don't care about paper. None of us are really even taking resumes. We're just gonna ask you to upload them. But make sure you do have a resume on hand. That way we can look through it and also provide feedback. I've had students that'll give me their resumes and there's a lot of white space. So during our one-on-one talk, I might just say, hey, here's a couple of things to add to your resume. Here's some feedback. Participate in the workshops. I know this is not a company sponsored per se, but coming to events like this, any other info sessions that companies are doing is great as well. Hospitality suites, I know that's big at the student organizations. I remember going to the NSBE hospitality suite. I'm sure SWE and other organizations have similar ones. Again, that's an informal environment. You can talk to the recruiters, not as much pressure, right? You're not standing in line with 10 people behind you waiting to get their turn as well. It's more casual. You might be eating or drinking. So just a lot more informal environment. And then be aware recruiters will be everywhere. You know, sometimes they'll see them at the hotel bar lobby. You could be at the same hotel, in the elevator. So just kind of always be prepared. You never know who you're gonna run into and when. So then after, I mentioned LinkedIn. Definitely reach out on LinkedIn if that's what you're using. Just follow up, hey, I met you at whatever event. We had a great conversation. I applied for this rec number. I look forward to hearing from you in the future, or an email as well if you have their email address. We don't really do business cards anymore. I know a lot is done with LinkedIn, but make sure your profile is also updated with that. Lessons learned. So were you prepared? Were you as prepared as you thought? Was your resume what you thought it would be, or did you get a lot of feedback on making updates to it? Did you go to any workshops, and what information did you gain from it? What were some things that went well or that you would improve on? And then did you make the most out of it? I know going to these events can be very draining, stressful, you know, especially if you're a senior and you're trying to get a job, you're trying to talk to everyone. You might have friends that are getting offers and you still don't have anything. What can you do differently? So at the next one, you maybe do get an interview, do get an offer. And then again, understanding the investment in yourself. You all could be anywhere else tonight, not sitting in a classroom listening to me, but you're making an investment in yourself. So you already have a leg up compared to your peers who aren't here. So then for the resume, this is the first thing recruiters will look at aside from you. You want to look, you know, you're dressed professionally. Now I get a chance to look at your resume. I might not be able to hear you. There's lots of conversations going on. It's busy, but I can read your resume. So you want to make sure you have some basic information, right? Your full name, contact information. A lot of you might have a .FAMU-FSU or engineering school email address or Gmail or Yahoo. Put the email address on there that you are going to check. Don't have an email address out there that you never check. Because if you do get communicated, you want to make sure you get that and it's not sitting in an email address you don't check every so often. And then location, what's your objective or summary? I am a upcoming junior looking for an internship. I am a graduating senior looking for a full-time job. It's just a quick 2-3 bullet or lines of what are you trying to get out of the position. It could be catered also to different companies, right? Boeing's an aerospace company. You also might be interested in Ford. 2 different companies that have 2 different products. So you might have one resume that says interested in automobile internship versus aerospace internship. Your education, your school GPA, major, graduation date. GPA is kind of always a sensitive subject. I have seen low GPAs below 3.5 if the student is working full-time or in band, or they have other circumstances that might explain why the GPA is not as high as someone else who is just going to school full-time and that's all they do. So your GPA is not as high. Definitely list your extracurricular activities that it might explain why it's not as high as the person who has a 3.8 and all they do is go to school. Your major is very important and also your graduation date. As we go back and look through the resumes we've scanned in on our tool, we don't always get time to talk to everyone or have detailed conversations. We don't always remember, but make sure your graduation date is on there. There have been many times you say, well, are they graduating in the spring, the summer, the fall? What are they looking for? And we forget, but having all that information on your resume is very helpful. Your experience. So I know for internships, a lot of students think they don't have any experience. The classes you're taking, the projects you're working on in class, that is considered experience. Any outside jobs you might have, you know, if you're working at Walmart, that's customer service, you're interacting with people. List that experience. Any honors, awards, volunteer experience, again, leadership experience. Are you leading the school organizations? Are you leading your fraternity or sorority chapter? And then any skills, computer languages, CAD programs you're learning, any software, any courses you're taking, I would list all of that on there. Again, you want to differentiate yourself from the person who's in line after you or next to you. So what do you have that this person might not? People don't list their coursework or their skills they're learning often, and we kind of have to pull it out of them and ask them. And again, remember, the resume is the only piece of information we have after we've discussed to go back and refer to. So put as much information on there as you can. Any questions? So experience, this is always a tricky one for students, but you want to focus on your achievements, the results, and then any numbers. So we have examples listed, and then you can see what the impactful examples are. You always want to start with an action word, a verb. What did you do? So I led the manufacturing plan. Again, my leadership. The what? The manufacturing plan is the what. How did you do it? To build around, and then why, right? To build around potential work shortages. So just think the what, how, and why did I do what I did? Another one, improved quality metrics. Reduce installation time by 50%. We always look for quantifiable data. So if you can quantify any dollar savings or time savings, that's information we want to have on the resume. So common mistakes. And again, if you get another set of eyes to look at your resume, all of this can be avoided. So bad grammar or formatting mistakes. I love the little squigglies in Microsoft Word. We're engineers, spelling is not my strong point, but Microsoft will always correct me when I'm wrong. We don't need information such as photographs. Most of you, if not all, are engineering majors. I have seen some resumes, they might be graphic artists, and that's kind of in their skill, right? They are very artsy and they want their photograph on there and it fits in line with their major. Engineering, we don't need a photograph. We don't need your social security number. That's considered personal information. We don't need that. We don't care about what your political or religious party are. Hobbies, maybe sometimes, that might be part of the skills or any leadership, right? You might want to list your hobbies under there. If you're, I would say, a sophomore and up, I don't care what high school you went to. You're in college, you're now looking for an internship or a job. So kind of focus on what you're currently doing, not necessarily what you did in high school. And then physical characteristics, I don't care. No personal pronouns, I, me, my. Use third person only on your resume. Again, not tailoring your resume for a specific position. I've received some resumes where it has been tailored, and I've gotten a resume for Lockheed Martin or Boeing. So if you're going to tailor your resume, make sure you're giving it to the right company. I have never needed a reference. I don't know why or how people thought references available upon request needed to be on resume. I remember I used to put it on mine. Nobody's asked for a reference. And then again, not having other people look at your resume. Use this group, use your professors, the career centers. There's lots of resources you can use to get feedback on your resume. So then I've added in some of my own thoughts. I did a little bit of research this weekend, looking up interview questions. I know what we asked, but I wanted to see what's kind of out there for the general public. So I found one website, and the link is at the bottom, on the 5 different types of interview questions. So one, assessing the personality. Are you a fit for our team and our company culture? You know, if you love the automobile industry and you're over the SAE program and that's all you're talking about, you might not be a good fit for Boeing because we're not an automobile company, we do aerospace. Demonstrating your ability, right? So what skills do you have? What are the qualifications for the position we're hiring for? Again, qualifications, the requirements. Are you a senior looking for a full-time position? Maybe you're going to grad school and you're just looking for an internship. If you are a grad student, your qualifications will be different than someone who's just graduating. All that gets taken into account in the types of interview questions. Predicting behavior, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But how do you make decisions? How do you work with people? Questions will be based around that as well. And then technical knowledge and knowledge of the industry. We're not going to give you a test or an exam, but we want to know and make sure you have basic engineering skills, right? What programs have you used? Have you used ProE or SolidWorks, C++, C++? So we might have some questions around that, and we're looking to understand what your technical knowledge is. So most Boeing interviews, and I think most all interviews are a panel interview, usually 3 to 4 people. We'll have the hiring manager, possibly a future peer or another co-manager, and HR might be in the panel as well. Boeing is really trying to focus on diverse interview panels, so we try to have a makeup of you know, different sexes and then also different levels. What are your qualifications? That's usually one of our first questions. Tell us why you're qualified for this position. And this is when you can just brag on yourself. What have you done? What makes you so great? What have you learned that makes you an excellent candidate, the candidate for this position? What differentiates you? What differentiates you from others, right? We might interview 4 to 5 people. Everyone's going to give us the same spiel, but what makes you stand out? What makes you more special than the other person? Our questions are usually situational based, meaning tell us about a time when you did something, right? And then you tell us a story. That's where the STAR format comes in. Have you all heard of the STAR format? Yeah, okay. And this is honestly when, as an interviewer, it can get boring, right? Because people just ramble. We're trying to take notes and understand what they're telling us. But if your answers are not organized and complete, you've lost us, right? We might ask questions to make sure we're getting the full answer. And then at the end, always have questions for the panel. It shows you're interested in the position and the company. It shows you've done your research. And this is a perfect opportunity to get insider information, right? What is the salary structure? What are the benefits? What's the company culture? What are some projects you might be working on? How long are the contracts lasting? So we'll go back to the STAR format, and I know you're all already familiar with it, so we won't spend too much time on it. But situation, task, action, result. What was the situation you experienced? What did you do? What steps did you take? And then what was the final outcome? And again, if there's any quantifiable data, make sure you include that. So here's an example. I won't read through it, but there's also a situational question. Tell me about a time you were overly tasked. How did you manage your time, right? Walk us through that process. Tell us the story. Keep us engaged. It gets boring listening to interviews for hours on end. We want something that's gonna, oh yeah, that person said this and it kept us engaged. So again, more on STAR situation. This can be tough if you're a student and you don't have previous work experience. Go back to your coursework, your projects you're doing in class, your senior design project. In my senior design class, I led a team of electrical engineers who did blah, blah, blah. The task, what was the goal? My team had to do ABC. The action, my role was to, notice I keep referring to myself. This is a chance you can brag on yourself, tell us all the great accomplishments about you. And then what was the end result? Did you get an A in the class? Did you not complete the assignment? And it's okay if you didn't complete the assignment. Not every result has to be, I saved the company $5 million. So I think this is my last slide, but tips when applying. So study up about the company, the position, do your research. I said create a profile. That's the best thing to do. Even as an employee, I have a profile. I look to see what positions are out there and if I'm qualified for them or not. Make it a match. Apply to roles you think might be a match, and you can always apply to more than one. And then again, tailor your resume. You can tailor your resume for each requisition you apply for. So you could apply for a mechanical designer, have a resume for that. You could apply for a structural analyst, have a resume for that. So just make sure you tailor your resume. And if you're gonna do that, upload the correct resume, right? You know, save it, mechanical engineer, structural analyst, and then upload that resume. That was it. You guys are so quiet.
I do have a question. As you were going through just the interview strategy, I think it was an interesting question that came up in my mind, like navigating, what makes you stand out. I know that's an opportunity for us to brag on ourselves, but I know, especially as engineers, we like to be specific. I might talk about these are my specific set of skills, but especially in undergrad, when you're applying to something like internships, it's a very broad, you're not even quite sure what the internship is. So it's like, what would you say, I guess what would you tell us as undergrads, how would we navigate doing that? Because I feel like you said, it gets boring, but it's like, I'm a hard worker, I work well in groups, and it's just kind of like everybody's gonna say that. So it's like, how can I brag myself in a way that's tailored to what I'm about?
And I think that's when you can rely on those hobby and external affiliations, not your schoolwork to help you stand out. But if you don't have a lot of experience, we've had candidates tell us about their fraternities or work or even high school projects. Because it's kind of hard if you don't have it to talk about it, but think about things you have done that you can talk about. And then back to your point about it's usually a broad or general requisition. Use your questions at the end, right? If the panelist is there hiring, the hiring manager for that rec is usually there. Ask them questions. Well, what would I be doing as a quality engineer? What would I be doing as a manufacturing engineer? Just to get more information out of them. Because interns, right, you can place people across the country. And sometimes it's not a specific internship rec, it is very broad. So use the interview to get information. Interview the company you're interviewing with, right? It works both ways. Yeah.
If a resume has a logo on it, would you recommend taking that off for the career fair? Is that something that it's not recommended, doesn't need to do, but
It's fine. You don't need to go home and redo your whole resume tonight. If you've got it on there, leave it there. Yes.
When you mentioned about experience in projects, should you have a second page for it, or should we also leave it?
So I don't know what the exact rules is for number of pages, but I would say if you are a senior, if you're an undergrad and a senior, you should only have 1 page. If you're a master's student and you've got some research information, maybe a page and a half. My resume is no more than 2 pages, and I've been working for 19 years. There gets to be a point when you don't need to go back 15 years. But if it's, If you think it's necessary for the position you're applying for, I would include it, but generally a one-page resume. You guys just wanted to eat, but no, Dr. She said, stop eating.
You said it's one page, you mean like front back or?
No, just front,
Front.
yeah. So if you do have a lot of information, play with the margin, right? Make the margin wider, get more space. I hate to see resumes with lots of white dead space, I call it.
What font and
Salaries are pretty, internships, how they had previous internships with us. What are they to the table? And that gives you room for negotiation, but I think most of the time it's pretty set. Yeah,
Regarding the negotiation, especially for like a student, at master's or PhD level, just out of curiosity, what's your like expectations? Do you tend to see most people, attempt to negotiate, or tend to see most people, tend to just accept the initial offer? Is that something that you kind of assume they're going to, or do you?
I mean, right now it's so competitive. And even now we have employees who come with us and say, hey, I have an offer from Lockheed or Northrop. We've been seeing that a lot lately. Can Boeing do anything to counter it and keep me here, or are they gonna walk? A lot of factors go into that. And I would say it's probably been 50-50 if they choose to stay or if they choose to leave. It really just depends. Definitely ask, right? It doesn't hurt to ask and shoot high and then hope they come back, meet in the middle somewhere. I know when I countered, I did the same strategy. They came back a little lower than I wanted, but I still took the job, right? It's what I wanted, and $2,000-3,000 isn't gonna change my mind much. And also with that, look at the benefit structure, right? You might not get the salary you want now, but do they have bonus and incentive programs to help you reach the salary you may want?
At what point should you, I guess, bring up to your manager for a raise? Or like, if you've been working with a company for about, I guess, what's the timeline? Where you start thinking about like the growth of your career, not necessarily staying as an entry-level employee?
So I would use that approach, not necessarily raise, but I'm looking to, learn this new information or this new skill I don't have. I've been doing this well. I'm willing to take on additional tasks and assignments to become a level 2 or level 3, So with Boeing, you can see what the requirements are for each level. And I have had employees ask, and I said, well, let's look at the level you're at and the level you want to be at. Do you have all of the qualifications for that level you want to be at? And if not, how can we fill in the gap? So I work with my employees. Definitely talk to your managers. We're not scary. People still think I look like I'm 18. I sat in your seat not that long ago. Have those conversations with your manager, and good managers will work on you with that. We're actually going through merit reviews now, and the employees that have come to me that have taken on the additional assignments, they are gonna get a little bit more than others because we've had that conversation and I've seen that grow. So again, don't look at just the salary, think long-term, right? What's the 401k matching? What's your pay time off? And as students, we don't think about all that, right? Just give me the money now. But I don't wanna work forever. I have a goal to retire when I'm 56. I'm halfway through my career and I'm on track to do that. So just think long-term, not just short-term.
Yes, you said you've been at Boeing for 19 years. Could you talk a little bit about like how much you've seen the matriculation from entry-level engineers to like higher positions?
So it honestly depends on the location. So I started in Everett, Washington, so the Seattle area, and that's where, Boeing's everywhere there, right? That's one of our larger sites.
From Tallahassee.
From Tallahassee. So I got on the plane from Tallahassee, Atlanta,
Uh-huh.
Washington State, and I had never been on the West Coast before.
Okay.
It's cold, it's rainy, there's beautiful mountains, but it's definitely not the Sunshine State. And there were a lot of students, right? Depending on the program, they'll do a big hiring initiative to go and work that program. So go out there. I was there for about 1.5 years. I was able to relocate back to Florida. This is where I'm from, so I feel like I'm not answering your question because I forgot what it was.
It was more about matriculation from entry-level engineers to higher positions.
Okay, so it depends on the location, honestly.
Okay.
Seattle is a large facility. St. Louis is pretty large. California, there's lots of programs, lots of opportunities to get stretch assignments, to work with your managers. and get those promotions versus smaller sites like Florida. At one point I was ready to leave because I felt like I wasn't getting that opportunity. So it really just depends on the site you're at. The larger sites, you'll see a lot more promotion quicker, than at smaller sites.
Is there more, competition at those larger sites?
No, I think there's just more opportunity.
Okay.
So they're getting new programs on, more people are retiring, just more opportunity to step into different roles.
Thank you.
What does the diversity look like in Boeing in terms of international master's/PhD students?
I'm not too sure about the demographics with students, but we are a global company. We have office in Poland. We've been working with on some statement of work that I'm working on, India as well. You know, from a US standpoint, I wouldn't say we're in every state, but we're probably pretty close. The virtual hybrid environment has helped that, so we probably do have employees in every state. But we are a global company. I know we have a Boeing UK design center we also work with. I've had friends that have done expat assignments in Japan. So, I mean, the sky's the limit with where you want to go within Boeing. I every now and then look at different international assignments. There's a Boeing Paris office. Mentioned Japan, Shanghai, our Poland office. We used to have a design center in Moscow. We no longer have that there. But there's lots of global opportunities.
So is there any opportunities in United States for international study? That's what you think.
So I would definitely look at the requisition and see what's on there. The qualifications, if you need to be a US person or citizen, will be listed on the rec. It just depends on what program you're working. Any other questions?
So if you were ready to, say, leave a particular company, at what point should you leave? Like, you just graduated, should you wait like 3 years? Or does it not matter when you leave to move to another company?
I don't think it matters, but just don't burn bridges.
Okay.
If you feel like you need a change for personal reasons, I mean, your well-being is what's most important, but definitely make that change. Companies do measure retention rates. I know some companies have quicker turnover than others, but I don't think it hurts, you know, if you were at Lockheed for 6 months, and you decided to come to Boeing, we're not gonna say, oh, well, he was only there for 6 months. If we see you hopping around maybe every 6 months, I might question it. But I think it's really just up to you. And people leave companies for various reasons as well, right? And that's your, I can't ask, you leave for whatever decision you need to make.
So if I was to come aboard to work with Boeing and I had a project and say I made some design, does Boeing provide like a patent support or?
We do.
Okay,
Yeah, so I did work with one gentleman who did receive a patent. And I'm not up to verse on all of the legalities with it. But anything designed using Boeing resources and time is owned by Boeing, but I think you do get some type of compensation from it. You know, maybe $30 a month or something.
okay.
But we do have patent attorneys that will walk you through that process.
And the patent will have to be, or the design will have to be with Boeing resources to be supported, or could it be a personal?
With Boeing resources.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If there are no more questions, we'll do a food break so you guys can eat. And then we have a panel of 3 people who have interned or worked with Boeing for a while to tell you about their experiences and for you to ask any other questions. We're gonna just go ahead and take a quick admission.
Everybody please get food. I'm not just gonna set the line off, but I want to make sure everybody's eating.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I don't have my copy. How about
Good evening, everyone, real quick. We have this signing sheet. Please sign it. We'll be right here. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Well, how do you think of this? That's what they told
She did get your.
Yeah, you're not expecting anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
First time I ever had to speak with him, he was working in a president or something. And I didn't. And then every other time I had this meeting with him, I have a Yeah, because it's like. What you gonna get, right? Like you said, you have. I get different. Yeah. That's what we think.
Excuse me, everyone, I have everyone to kitchen, please. In about 15 minutes, we'll start the panel discussion. So keep that in mind, get the food, chit chat.
Because I. Well, you just don't say that. So you can change who you are. I don't have much. Like this is. Doesn't matter.
I mean, like, that's why I don't think changed it. Yeah, like I go in there, I'm like, all right, I need to get checked. Don't worry, deal like. Put that, you know, or like, you need to say.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Oh. Starting at like 1 AM.
Even though I'm out. I was doing college.
Yeah.
Get out by.
Yeah.
He told me that. I think he told me.
But she said it's okay.
On your successes here.
Well, it is in design.
Yeah, I'm really cold. I'm 100% sure.
They're trying to go talk to Albert and you were in there. I don't know.
No way.
She told us that.
This next coming.
Because you're eventually like that. Okay, yeah, nothing more debate. Well, you don't want to be like answer. Didn't you think the figure that's you are in the back. Okay.
They use an owl. I don't know.
Already. Okay. I don't know.
Pretty much. Well, you're gonna have to, it's 2,000.
I'm so really for it.
Honestly, it's. Like, if. But talking to my advisor.
So every time I buy a letter, it's cool.
How was your? You've been like.
Yeah, and then the extra, DJ, stuff like that. If it's showing here, like, stuff and then talk about this.
And there's. At least you got it. I think I think pretty
Because there's not that many people that want to do it, like graduate students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you redo it.
I remember my person. Yeah.
Yeah, read that.
Yeah, I know.
I get what you're saying. But.
I guess I'm also.
Sean.
I give myself $5 a day, all of that. I don't know. They all like 35.
When I got out of class, he was walking. Yeah, that's what they do. We put them
I've never been.
I did my job.
So thank you for everyone that stayed. We're gonna listen to the panelists. So what we'll ask from there to do is to introduce themselves. Tell us about your experience at Boeing. How did you get there? And then if you have any tips or tricks for anyone else who wants to try and get an internship or whatever Boeing would you tell them to do. So I'll let y'all decide who wants to go first, but thank you.
I guess so. All right. Greetings, everyone. I'm Lauren McNeely. I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering scholar from Memphis, Tennessee. A little bit about me. I am a piccolo section leader in the marching 100. I'm also a member of Project Sigma. What else? That's probably enough. So, how I got into Boeing was they actually reached out to me my sophomore year. It was some type of recruitment program. And with that recruitment program, it was also a development program. So they basically offered me a 3-year program to develop professionally and also have internships every single summer semester while I was doing my undergraduate degree. So in this time, I have interned in Seattle at their, technically Everett. I interned at their Everett site on the propulsion team. I also interned in Long Beach on the propulsion team. And I'm currently going to work full-time with the same team that I interned with this past summer. So I guess you could say I'm technically working at their propulsion design center in Long Beach, California. When I accepted the 3-year contract as a sophomore, I knew that I was signing up for basically my whole college experience to kind of be Boeing. And I was okay with that because with the contract, I knew that I would have a full-time job after graduation. So, and also at the same time, I've learned how to be my best professional self and also with every summer that I have, every time I come here, I learn more and I'm able to kind of connect everything together. So that's my experience.
All right, greetings, everybody. My name is Sean Butler. I'm a graduating senior, mechanical engineering from Orlando, Florida. I got to Boeing a little differently. I went to an innovation. It's why it's very important for you guys to sponsor scholarships because sometimes the scholarships can lead you to getting internships. So I applied through TMCF, which is called the Burger Commercial College Run. And when I went through that program, it was an innovation challenge. And Boeing was the host of it, and I think they were giving out prizes like scholarships for like 10,000, 5,000. I think it was like 2 years of it. So, but even though our team didn't win, they still encouraged them to apply for job in Boeing. I applied, they had a specialized link, and when you guys get specialized like links, it is through programs. They're looking to hire people from programs. So that's how we definitely. If you guys see any like challenges, they can do it with any company, Chevron, they can do it with Lockheed. If you guys see them having like special challenges in this company that's within your interest that you want to work for, do their challenges and do their, because that can lead you to go and have connections with managers, hiring managers, and you go around it. So I started work, so I got the job, or I applied through their TMCF link that they sent us, and I came back, and my first internship was in Long Beach, California. And that was, it was definitely a great change. From that previous experience, where I was in New York, I wasn't a Boeing, but I feel like that internship kind of helped me get to Boeing. So the first thing they sent me was Long Beach, California. I had a great time with my team, and it's California, so it's very beautiful out there. Team is great, they're welcoming, because we're gonna be the new faces of Boeing. Like this is gonna revolutionary. Everybody is older, from them. So they look at us as for the future of Boeing, because technically we are. After that, my next internship after that was in Oklahoma. So it was a very drastic change, very slow paced city. So it all just depends on like kind of where you're depending on, you have to find out your lifestyle of how you want to live, especially because if you want to have like a city life, you might go to somewhere, a company that is within the city, like Houston, Dallas, or like those are big like tech companies, or if you go to Seattle. Seattle, I'm in Seattle, so I can't really speak to the city life there. But you have to figure out what type of person you are to be able to figure out where you want to work, because you can have a great job but be miserable because of the city life or because of what you're kind of like, if you just not something that you want to be. So I accepted a full-time position. My manager's right here. And I'll be working in Titusville, Florida, so I'll still be here. And yeah, I eventually was a little different. I never go to, but it all makes sense. What's your
So yes, good evening. My name is Bryce Salton. I am a fourth year PhD student here, at FCAP. I work under Dr. Kumar. I studied mechanical engineering and I did my undergrad at Tuskegee. And I did aerospace engineering there, and that is relevant because that's where I had my internship experience with Boeing. So I was my experience with Boeing, I was a graduating senior, at Tuskegee back in, 2020. Or I guess I got the offer in 2019 in the fall. This Tamika, do you know the Excel program? Is that what it is that Boeing has? It's like the honors, like Boeing internship that.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, well,
They may have changed. the name.
sure, yeah, well, at the time, I think it was called Excel, it was honors Boeing internship that I was applying for and I entered for. And I guess what makes it unique is it was kind of interesting because I was a graduating senior. So a lot of companies, including Boeing, like, well, full-time positions, like, no, like, I actually want to have an internship as a graduating senior because I intend to go to grad school in 2020. So I think that was really nice just because they were, allowing me to do that and they had opportunities for grad students. So my internship experience was a little bit unique because of the pandemic in 2020. So I actually had a virtual internship. I was supposed to be in Mesa, Arizona, working in the Apache program. But due to COVID, I had to work all the way across the country in Florida and in Georgia and Florida, like I was staying with my family essentially. So it was very unique because there was a 3-hour time difference and had to try to work with my managers across the country via WebEx the whole time essentially. But I really enjoyed the experience because my managers kind of made that more of a teaching internship because I couldn't actually physically be there and run tests on the Apache. So learning a lot of thermal fluids, thermodynamics, and just kind of being able to pace myself and just learn new things, are able to kind of learn different software that they use and do like data analysis. So I feel like I'm prepared for my PhD program because I had to do a lot of data analysis, which I'm currently doing. So yeah, and one cool thing, when the pandemic kind of got down in 2021, I was able to go visit my site and meet my managers in person. So that was really nice. Yeah, so I think that's kind of my unique bowling experience, but I kind of, what I would share is you kind of have a lot, you do have leverage, like the speaker was saying earlier, but as a student, you get to interview the company and see what is best for you. Because for me, I didn't want to work full time while doing grad school. And Boeing has things like that, but it's like whatever works for you, you can use that leverage to get what you want.
Yeah, and as you can see, everybody or all three of us up here, we didn't apply through normal means, like we just go to the website and we actually have to go out and do some type of, take that extra step to get to where we're at. Yeah. So we didn't ever just apply and we can take down the step, because it's a lot more than that. Definitely make connections with recruiters, keep in touch with them, LinkedIn, emails. If they give you the phone number, don't blow them up, but it's okay to send a text to check on how you're doing, and have communications. Just don't take that crazy hours, between this hour and 9 to 5. But yeah, that's definitely that would be a tip. Go to these events because if you have an organization, let's say everybody, like you're in an organization, would you want somebody in your organization that you don't know at all, rather than put somebody that you have a conversation with and you understand that person, you know that person, you find that person you talk to in your organization rather than reading about somebody about and not knowing the person. So
I can add on to that. When you go to these events and when you apply for these internships, people hire people, like they don't hire like resumes. So like we're all engineers, like we're all smart. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm smart. No, I'm smart, like what makes you unique? So when you talk to these people, when you talk to the interviewers, like treat them like a person, like how was your day? Like what are you doing this weekend? Not just like, oh, C++, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, a lot of managers, a
yeah,
lot of the hiring managers, they don't do the engineers. Yeah. You could be talking about CAD and hiring managers don't even know what it is. So it's like, try to connect with them in person.
also show that like you're willing to learn, because mind you, like I was a sophomore and they asked me to apply. So it's very good if you go to events and they ask you to apply for the position, that's a very good sign. Because that means that they know you as a person. So when they see your name, they're like, oh yeah, I talked to him about baseball last week. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody's gonna remember you talking about your senior design project, but they will remember that they had a good laugh with you that one time. You know what I mean? So like next time they see your face, you gotta have that personal connection. So that like they remember your face, they remember your personality, so that they can see you on their team, like in being a good asset to the positive vibe that they want.
Honestly, that's, my preference was to, you know, apply for jobs or internships at actual face-to-face events. I don't know about y'all, I'm an extrovert, so I actually thrive just like being around people, talking to people. And then building those connections, because you never know. Actually, in my interview with Boeing, one of the interviewers was a classmate. She had graduated a couple years prior, and now she worked at Boeing full time, and she was in my interview. And we had good rapport. I've asked her for advice all the time, so I was very comfortable sitting in that interview, just being able, like, I was talking to a friend or a colleague that I already knew. And also, you just never know, like, who you come across. Like they were saying, like you may talk to Ms. Tamika today, and it may not end in an internship this year, but then next year she sees you again. It's like, oh yeah, I remember. Like, I had a great conversation. You know, you continue to build that rapport. Like that's how I got my first internship with Lockheed Martin. I saw the same lady at least 5 times that whole school year. And by the 5th time, she was like, Bryce, come on, let me get you an internship. Like, and I was a freshman, and you know, a lot of times, and I think that's really cool because I feel like the old man back in my day, they wasn't really given, you know, it's hard to get an internship as a freshman, but it's really cool to see that these companies are like you said, like we are the next future of these engineering firms, and I'm glad to see that they're, you know, giving freshmen a chance and investing in them. So like shoot your shot as a
You
freshman.
really have
as a
to have
sophomore.
really good soft skills, because I just remember you mentioned the pandemic and stuff. In sophomore year, everything was so virtual, kind of. And I remember now, the event I went to, the big event, it was on Zoom. So I had to unmute myself, and like so every single time, they're like, does anybody have questions? And I'll ask a question, and I'll be the only person to really participate at for the whole time. And at the end, they're like, okay, the MVP is Lauren McKaylee, because she's the only person that participated, and I got 2 sets of AirPods because of that. Great. But also, my interview was on the phone. It wasn't on Zoom, like they never saw me, like they literally called me on my phone. So that's when I really knew that I had to like use my inflections and my voice and not sound, you know, lackadaisical or bored, because you don't have your face to save you. You know, so you really have to sell a story. Like she mentioned, when you're telling about your experiences, you have to tell a story. And mind you, I didn't have a lot of technical stories to tell. So what I use is I use my experiences in the marching band, and I used what class did we take freshman year? Like freshman engineering lab or something.
Yeah.
And I just kept to pushing, but I knew that I wanted them to remember me. So I remember distinctly, I would tell my technical skills, but they were talking to me a lot about my extracurricular activities. So every single time I saw them again, they would ask me more about my personal life than they'll be like, oh, Lauren, what'd you learn in school? And by the way, how's band going? You know? So like I was saying before, like they have to know you as a whole thing, because they care about you as a person and not just like, yeah.
And then there's one thing I can say. So originally, I was supposed to be going to Alabama, but because I went to the career fair for the last semester, your lessons. So, originally, I wasn't even supposed to be in Florida. I didn't, I think Alabama was, I went to go where I went to go, like, for X amount of time, I kind of wanted to stay outside of the family. So what I did was, I came to the career fair, like a normal student, like, but I knew people at Boeing and who were at the table. And it just so happened, Tamika saw me, and she asked me where I was going. And I was like, I wasn't going out there, I want to go.
You don't show up like a normal student. Every week event we go to,
I know.
Sean is there. He is there before we are there. So like they said, right, who's gonna be there? Keep showing up, come see us. It's usually a team, right, that the company says, so you'll see the same people at each event, right? Because that's the team for that university. So Tuskegee is a different, a different team we have. But it's usually a core team that you will see all the time at that same university.
And so, yeah, I used to show up a lot. So she would always see me, every going event, yeah, she saw me there. So eventually, she asked me where I was going, so I didn't know where I was going yet. But at the time, I didn't know until I found out. And I was like, I heard I want to go. And, she just became a manager. So, knowing who you know is a very powerful thing. And she knew that a great person. And
Was that the year we had the man at the table? One time, last year, they're like, yeah, Lauren, can you, stand at the table and talk about the company? I said,
I think that was 2022, 2 years ago.
I was just like, it was so weird having people older than me, like, ask me questions. I'm like, you have a degree. Like, asking me about, anyway, yeah.
So these are the people you want to ask, right? I'll give you the company line. They can tell you the truth, right? The ins and outs. My salary was not great as an internship, or, they can tell you from their point of view, right? And now you've got 2 people that have interned in Long Beach, a person who's worked on Apache and Mesa. They have connections I don't even have, right? So you don't, like they said, it's all about who you know, right? Who has those connections at other places working for Propulsion?
And yeah, so who you know is a very good thing. Just show up, even if you're early, be 30 minutes early, you're beating. I think every year we think like 100,000 engineers graduate every year. So you're trying to beat out all the people applying for company your job. You're not the only person who graduated with your degree, you're trying to beat the next person. And for you to get at the competition, you have to look at somebody, or you have to just show up and show that you're a good candidate. Why should I choose you? And I use my connection for my friend Jordan. He just started working for Boeing. He's working on Friday. He starts on Friday. He just flew to Seattle 2 weeks ago. And I got him the job just by networking. He was networking with me, and I networked him. So let me get you something before you graduate, because it's something I've done for years. It's my closest friend. And I got him a job for Seattle. He's doing better than I am. So it's like, and he's not even an engineer. He's not even an engineer. And he has a job title as an engineer. So it's like putting people in connections in the right place and more people that come to go on.
Just remember, it's a small world. So if it's a small world, then the bowling world is even smaller. Like, once you know one person, it's like, oh yeah, I know them. It's like, oh yeah, I know them. So it's like, you can always trace down the tree. And when I went for my Seattle internship to my Long Beach internship, they were like, oh, who's your past manager? They're like, oh, I know him. I'm like, how? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's very interconnected like that. And I would say on an internship like standpoint, they give really good benefits. They give you a 401, and they give you transportation and housing. And if they don't give you housing, they'll give you money for housing.
That's separate from your
That's separate. from
salary,
your-
and then there's separate, like,
So what people will do is they'll basically like live in the slums for that summer, but they can take the extra money that they gave them and just use it for like other stuff. Like, I saw somebody buy a car with their, they just took the bus and fire.
You're considered a full-time employee, right? So your internship ends, you come back the next summer, you've accrued vacation time. I know interns that have gone back to school and let Boeing pay for their summer. I mean, you get the same benefits we do.
The benefits are voluntary. You get health, vision, dental, I use a dental, this past, yeah, I was like, shoot, I'm gonna take advantage. So,
Well, once I realized I was working full time, I was like, let me start using my vacation days so much.
yeah. And usually what I would do after every summer, since I was an intern, like, if you don't use any of your vacation time, it pays out to you, so that's like a whole nother. That's a whole other check, that you'll be receiving, it's just like your normal base pay, however much you're making, depending on location. Also, that's another thing too, your location matters. So what I mean by this is like, just because you get an offer, let's say in California compared to, I'll go one place that for example. You'll probably make it in California, 90,000, maybe starting out 80, I don't know what the salary for that. But in Oklahoma, I'm barely making 60,000 a year. Being a mechanical engineer, so don't let it but in terms of the cost of living without to just about being an entry level engineer. So don't let the numbers kind of fool you into something that, not saying that what it isn't, because it's very expensive to live in certain parts of the world. So just because you have a higher salary, your cost of living is probably higher in that area. So most people, I guess, your salary can be different, but depending on where you're living at, that also can be a factor as well. So take that into account whenever you go and do whatever you choose, because that will matter. You make your compensation what company. And so don't let it, but also look at the benefits as well. Look at what the company does for you, how they take care of their employees. You see all of us up here, pretty good, most of us going for what, 3 years now. So it's like, maybe they must be doing something right for us to stay around. So it's a really good company, big company. Yeah, they will take care of you. It's like your manager, so open and easy. And as long as you're committed, it should be no issue.
I would say like on a technical level, I've worked in sustainability, materials. I went to structures, ran away, it was scary. I literally saw a pre-body that I was like, I'm good, so I didn't do that. I worked in tear down labs. I'm sticking on propulsion, so that's what I've done the longest. But every time I went there, my manager was like, just shadow every team and see what you like to do. But so far, my favorite things to do are materials, sustainability, and propulsion. But I've also, I guess you could say I worked in structures, but I personally didn't like it, but I know people like structures. So, yeah, working with trusses and things like that, but of course, trusses on an airplane is not what you learn.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah.
Your coursework doesn't make it.
But you learn it on the job.
Yeah, it's all learning. Your coursework, do great at school, of course, do great at school. But I didn't do the best. But I know that what I learned in school, some of it equates to what you'll learn in the field, but most of the time you're gonna learn on your experience with the job. So don't ever feel nervous if you don't know anything. Because even being an intern, you're not supposed to know, you're not. And then even when you're a full-time employee, if you're just starting fresh out of college, you're still, people been in their job for 10 years, they're still finding out new stuff every day. So don't ever feel like you're behind, everybody brings up things, so you will never be behind.
College teaches you how to learn, not what you're supposed to know. So college teaches you, once you find something new, oh, I know how to learn stuff very fast, or I'm a pretty good crammer now. So like if your boss gives you something, it's basically like preparing you for stressful situations. That's what college is. So it happens in the real world too. Like you're gonna be given something you've never seen before, and they want a deliverable by the end of the week. That's like the same thing at school. You might forget what you did a month later, but at least you got the deliverable, you know? Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Is there like a sort of GPA to strive for at Boeing or like this?
Well, I have a, wait, am I supposed to say that?
I'll be honest, I can be honest with GPA. My GPA is the best. I don't know, it's me.
I don't think myself.
It's different. I didn't get it on that. So, but I mean, I feel it's fine, even if it's not. Just like this week was saying, have like something like resume that can compensate why your GPA wasn't as high. They show that you have character, you're not just in school, or you're just in school, not like doing work.
And that internship that you had, was that related to aerospace, like the field or?
In New York,
Yeah, the internship you had before Boeing.
it was, I worked with the United States.
Okay,
So it was.
yeah, I was asking because I have a internship for like HVAC design, but I want to do like aerospace, and I was wondering if that internship.
It was two.
Okay, sweet.
When you guys were going through the interviewing process, were follow-up emails helpful for you guys?
Oh, yeah, so, I'm trying to remember, when I got the offers, I sent a few of my interviewers, thank you, emails, just, and then my, the person I knew personally, I texted it, but yeah, like definitely, if you want to follow up, if you get the offer, even if you don't, like, if you get, it depends, because like sometimes it's like a, I don't want to say automated thing, but it's like a non-response, non-reply email. But, if you can, follow up and just be thankful for the interview or thank you for the offer, I would definitely try.
And if it's not email, most people are on LinkedIn, so look us up, hey, thank you for the time. We get tons of emails a day, so we don't purposely ignore it, but it'll just get buried and then time goes on and on. And be persistent too, right? Hey, if a week goes by and you haven't heard anything, just following up on the email. And I like getting non-work related emails. I don't always have the time to respond, but I love seeing something non-work related.
You mentioned that Boeing reached out to you as a sophomore, and I was just curious what made them attracted to you so early.
It was what was it called? They were hosting some type of like, hey, if you're a sophomore, come to this thing, right? And so then there was a bunch of sophomores that came, and then out of those sophomores, they chose like, I guess, based on GPA or some type of, they chose people. So they basically just shaved it down, like a group of about 10 people. And then from there, they just kind of chose us for the 3-year program. So, and then like with the 3-year program, kind of goes into the entry level, because it was also a scholarship program at the same time.
So that's pretty.
Events are very like, and then it's like, oh yeah, come out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'll say, like I said, this wasn't really a thing. When I was an undergrad, I think this is the dope for you guys, in undergrad, because they have, now companies are coming in with the intention to hire specific classes, like, oh, we have internships for freshmen, we have internship for sophomore, we have like sophomore, junior, but so I would say, it's not as, it's just a little bit more streamlined, and it's just, you feel like you have an opportunity to have work, so like definitely go for it. Because yeah, companies are willing to make that investment.
People really want to like interview and like hire at career fairs, because when they told me to man the table, they're literally like telling me to go out and find people to bring back to the table that they were looking for. They're like, we're trying to get interviews in today. They're like, Lauren, can you find people that are X, Y, Z? So that was like my job, basically like finding people that they like wanted. So then they're like, we need these interviews, but these people that are coming up, they're not like exactly, or they're not looking for the job that we're offering. So I'll go up and do like, are you looking for this type of job? And they'll be like, yeah. I'd be like, all right, please come to our table. So yeah.
And I think I guess in the fall, Sean and Playboy always does. Like, we are here to make offers on the spot. And we're not having many engineering students. Go tell your friends to come. We interviewed and made offers on the spot. So there's also some flexibility, right? They were missing classes. I know the campus is not convenient to either university. I think classes are canceled tomorrow for the STEM fair, but not Wednesday and Thursday, right? See if you can take time out to go to the universities and go to career fairs. It's not always convenient, but I wanted to graduate with a job. I made every effort I could to have a job. I had 3 offers when I graduated, Boeing being one of them. So you have to go out of your way, you know, maybe miss a class, tag up with somebody for notes afterwards, but if you have a goal, try to do your best to accomplish the goal.
Definitely graduate. Don't graduate without an offer. Because it gets, probably like 3 times harder to get a job. Just because they're looking for fresh graduates, even though you are a fresh graduate, but you're no longer like student kind of in that aspect. Once you graduate, you're done. So it's like they're looking to hire people who are fresh and kind of coming up. It's kind of hard to describe it, but once you graduate, you're like your own separate kind of.
I would argue if you know your professors well, you have a little bit of leeway.
Maybe, yeah.
Because if you know your professors well and you keep in contact, like the year, like in the year span when you graduate, I feel like they would.
Yeah, I'll get you a job, but you'll a while, but it's very. It's just a little more difficult. I wouldn't say it's very hard, but I know you might hear stories about people who, they're engineers who don't have jobs for like 6 months to a year. So, but I feel like, you know, if you do what you need to do undergrad, you make connections, you can never get something. It shouldn't be as difficult. And somebody should be able to at least recognize your name, remember your name. So they can my table. They don't have a job. So.
And I know the BPAE program is about, you know, not just undergrad, but also graduate.
Yeah.
So if you get a job, I think the school still has a 5-year master's program.
Yes, program.
Okay.
Yes.
Stick around. I know school is hard and you're like 4 years, 5 years, I'm done. But what is 1 more year, right? Gives you more experience. Companies still do internships. I know he's since left, but I know last time we were here, I can't remember his name, but he gave us a tour of the Fulsham lab here that they use, right? You can still make those connections and be involved. So don't just think I have to get a job. There are other options like grad school.
And I think that's really good point to talk about, like, that's kind of what my experience looks like. But I know I knew I wanted to go into grad school, so I made that decision. I was telling you, no, I don't want a full-time offer. I would like an internship. One company did have an interesting thing where I believe it was GE, we could like work full-time and then go to school, like you work it was like 6 months on, we work and then 6 months.
Educational leave of absence.
Yes, yeah, and I met someone at MIT who was doing that, but, yeah, I would say. I want to just speak on the grad school aspect, it's kind of just my spiel, like, if you are considering grad school, please, like, go forward with it, especially here, yeah, the BS and MS program, I think that's really good, because to come out with a master's, you're like leapfrogging all of your peers, and yeah, just for, some of us take 5 years to graduate engineering, like that's the average anyway, so that's the average, so you can get out with your peers, with a leg up with a master's, that puts you in a lot better position, and to get a lot more just different opportunities, because I'll say another thing too, you're in these. When I was in my internships, I'm looking around me and I took the opportunity to talk to other engineers, see what their experiences was. A lot of them had a master's, had a PhD, at Boeing. My manager, he had a PhD, and then my other manager, she got her master's, she was going for the PhD, but her she had like a weird situation where the funding ended, so she couldn't get it. But she would have had a PhD, like she had the knowledge to get a PhD, so that kind of shows like, okay, if I want to do what they're doing, and I see what people who don't have, you know, just a bachelor's in the road that it takes to level up, it makes a little bit of easier path. You get to do a lot more interesting projects when you do have that higher level of education.
Lack of education. I would say if you get a job, pay for your master's, get a job, pay for your master's, because getting a master's is expensive. And I'm not sure why the ball is your, I think it's a school. So I would take advantage of that, because over summer they're gonna pick my class, but I would take scholarships. So, I would definitely say you should, but if you're gonna, if you're gonna get your master's, don't have it go to like, oh, if you get to have one say that, I wouldn't do that. I would try to see if you get a good, pay for it, a good job, pay for it, make it a little easier on you. Instead of like taking out that and getting you more financial benefit. Because it's not, there's no reason, because companies out here, most companies, especially for engineers, they're paying for your masters. They're paying for it. That's their incentive to hire students and hire people. They will this, that's their incentive to pay for it. So I would definitely say get a job first. If you get your master's through with well, education leave of absence, they have certain things done. Are in place for you. And also most programs now, master degrees, you do them online. Some of them online. And I know for at least here, they have a systems engineering is online, it's completely online degree. And it just all depends on where you want to go. But I would try to say, if you can get a job first, I would say try it. But everybody brought it different. So just try to do what's financially feasible for you. And also just do what you're more comfortable with.
I also look at the fine print, like, if your company is paying for your masters, they're not doing you a favor, it's an exchange. So most times, if they're paying for your masters, they're expecting you to stay a certain amount of time. Like, nobody just does nice things like that, for like no reason, so. Make sure that like, you're not getting them to pay your education, you're like, oh, actually, I want to go to a different company, they're like, actually, no. You have to stay here for about a couple more years, so just think about it, like, think about your, 5-year, 10-year plan, like, if your company's gonna pay for your masters, you need to be prepared to be loyal to that company, because they're probably gonna expect loyalty from you, because that's like a lot of money. I think I heard like, if you leave before you're supposed to, you like owe money or something, I've heard that with some companies, so be careful.
And they'll take it off your taxes, so you can't. They will be done.
We had on my old group, an employee who came from Northrop. He was getting his degree. He left to come to Boeing, and he did have to pay Northrop back that money because he left before the time frame said. And also, you have an engineering degree, you're probably gonna be engineers. You don't really need a culinary skill or a law degree, right, to do your engineering job. Boeing will pay for you to get other degrees, but you will have to pay the taxes. So I went back and got my MBA, not needed for engineering. I had to pay taxes on my MBA degree, and they take it right out of you.
Yeah, so it's not as peachy as it sounds, but I got warned about that this past summer. Cause I wanna get my MBA personally, or all my managers have always said, don't get a master's just to get a master's. Like, if you're gonna spend the money to get a master's, like, actually see what you're interested in. So you don't just like, oh, I need to get a master's, like, okay, like a master's in what, but you don't wanna get a master's like, well, actually, I'm actually more interested in materials, I'm totally got a master's in materials instead of just general mechanical engineering. So some people choose that time to maybe work for like a year or two and like think about what they want to master in, and some people are just like, just do it now, or some people really know what they want to master in, and that's luckier than me, because I'm gonna take some time to think about it. But also don't wait too long, because, once you settle down, then nobody wants to go back to school after a while.
And Boeing also has a lot of partnerships with universities, so there's a lot of certificate programs. I know we have a structures one, I think with USC, I think we might have a systems one with MIT. So again, you don't have to pay anything, right? There's, of course, all the legwork is done. We already have the connections with these universities. You might attend class, it might be a 12-week program. You call in after work for a couple hours a week. There might be some tests. I haven't taken it personally, but I know there's lots of certificate classes offered as well. So you can have a, USC or UCLA, FAMU, systems engineering certificate.
I personally participated in those classes. Yeah, it's basically like you're in school, but like afterward. So it's like 2-hour lectures. I took propulsion classes, my internship. So my manager would be like, all right, Lauren, like, what did you learn? So it kind of felt like I was in school at the same time, but granted, I need to learn anyway. So like, I forgot what university it was by, but the professors are pretty good, it's over Zoom. So, just go home, find a time, or it's only like once or twice a week. And it actually helps you, especially if you're entry level, not feel like you're just there sitting at your desk, like not having things to contribute. Like if you know that you don't know what your job is doing, or you feel like you want to progress more, I would take those classes for sure. But they also have classes on a lot of things at Boeing actually. Excel, I learned a lot about Excel. I went to like 4 Excel classes, structures, propulsion, they have like book clubs. They have like meditation Mondays. People are literally like at their at their desk at like 8 o'clock in the morning. And they have soft skill classes and they have hard skill classes. So like communication, how to talk to your manager, how to build up in a company, just things like that. So you get to talk to your coworkers and be like, oh, what events are you going to this week? And I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go to Excel 2.7 because I don't know how to do whatever. I don't know how to categorize this stuff.
Any other questions?
You mentioned that you've got the aerospace engineering degree from Tuskegee. And I wanted to focus more on aerospace, but I'm still at FAMU, so my bachelor's would be in mechanical engineering. And I just wanted to know like how that would work or how I would market myself, so I could like be able to focus more on aerospace.
What?
I'm a freshman.
You're a freshman, okay. What's your name?
Jada.
Jada. We can talk more afterwards, but I would say, so here, and I can attest, like, working under Dr. Kumar. I don't know what's happening in the timeline of things, but I know they take a plan to like actually get accreditation to have aerospace here. I don't know when that is, but we do offer aerospace, courses here. So as a mechanical engineering, but I didn't go here for undergrad, but so y'all let me know. You can be on the dynamics, fluids, and aerospace and management. But that's fluids, like thermal fluids, and what's the third thing?
Materials.
Materials. So,
Engineering education.
okay, cool. So yeah, so as a mechanical engineer, you have all these different avenues you can go down. So aerospace, so, you can take, as like a tech elective, like you can take, intro to gas dynamics, you can take, we just add a hypersonics course. We have, thermodynamics, we have Dr. Sheep teaching propulsion. So we have a lot of aerospace courses that are taught here. Like my research is aerospace here, so it's just unfortunately like it won't be an aerospace, it'll just be mechanical. So when you do approach a company like a Boeing or whatever aerospace companies out there, you say, hey, like I'm mechanical, but I'm open to doing aerospace type work. And yeah, just take those aerospace courses.
And then when you graduate, if you do all 3 tech electives, if they're aerospace, you'll get a minor, or you'll get a track, but one for degree, it'll say that you have a specialization in this, or specialist in dynamics. I don't think I'm gonna get it from the other side, it's a lot of work to get it. But if you do take 3 of the same, either through dynamics or through dynamics tech electives, then you'll have a specialization. That's what I was gonna do. But it's just but yeah, that's what you would do. And then you'll technically kind of be an aerospace engineer, I guess technically. But
I wouldn't stress out too much about that. If you're entry level, you're entry level.
you can still get an aerospace job, you can still do aerospace things. If you're learning about, you're learning everything.
Your manager's still gonna assume you know nothing, so.
Yeah.
But if that is something that you're interested in doing, there is an aerospace certificate here. There's an aerospace certificate program. but they are, the school, I know, they are trying to branch out to get an aerospace engineering accredited degree, but it's just not kind of thing. So we do have the certificate program, if that's something that you're interested in, you can talk to me or Dr. Ali. Or you can talk to Dr. Kumar or Dean Rice or any other people within the OSW that use that. And also just if you're interested in doing a graduate degree instead of immediately going into the industry, you can also talk to any one of us in here. We can help you navigate that. Thank you. So do you have any other questions for our panelists? If not, we'll conclude here. Thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Tamika Jones, for sharing. If you haven't signed in, please make sure you see us at the front. And if you have any questions, feel free to after the.